Hello, quick little thing before we start here. So I've started a podcast with two of my friends called the Questlog Club. This is a new game club type show I'm hosting with my friends, Robin McCall and Daedra, where we rotate hosts each episode and pick one game to cover each month. So the first 3 episodes are up on our channel, which will be linked in the description, along with wherever you get your podcasts as we have our RSS feed set up. So yeah, please give us a chance, as I think we're really hitting our stride with things and making some really rad stuff with it. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Castlevania is real cool, ain't it? I haven't really played a ton of games in the series, but something about it has always drawn my attention in the sort of way that I've always loved. That clear love and adoration of campy horror films, the tense horror-tinged vibes with a playful heart, the constant willingness to experiment from entry to entry, even from the very beginning. Simon's Quest, even with its reputation majorly due to the botched localization in the West, still pulled me in and fascinated me in how something could change so interestingly and drastically from a first entry, and how even with that divergence, games still to this day are being clearly influenced by even those divergences in pretty fascinating ways. So as you can imagine, with how many games have been released, how many side games and spin-offs there are that Konami would try to mix things up a little within this historic franchise, willing to experiment all over even after something like Castlevania 64, which actually is a pretty rad game, y'all are just mean. Though I feel like nobody really talks about the PS2 Castlevanias really at all for some bizarre reason. Like, I've heard about Castlevania Lament of Innocence and Curse of Darkness over the years. I remember seeing the box art for both in game shops a long time ago and thinking they were super rad to see. Like, look at these, they rule! And wanting to see more about them both. I remember as a kid watching an episode of Cheat on G4 that specifically covered Curse of Darkness and how to beat Trevor Belmont. Though I don't think it's been archived anywhere, I could not find footage of this. Though I feel like as I got older and learned more about the series, it always felt like these two always were discussed with hushed tones, as if the specter of Castlevania 64's reputation kind of ended up staining them, unable to escape this very silly idea of being unable to translate well into 3D. Maybe that kept it from spreading around? Maybe the games just weren't that great? Maybe they just went slept on as undiscovered gems? Who knows? Well, I know, 'cause I played them. So I was looking forward to this one. Lament of Innocence, out of both of them, I knew far less about in comparison to Curse of Darkness. I remember seeing the rad box art, I'd heard a few songs from the gorgeous soundtrack, and known that absolutely banger line Leon says at the end of the game.
But I am beloved by the night. You will taste my powers.
I'll kill you and the night!
But it's provocative.
No, it's not. It
Gets the people going.
So, I boot into it, I'm taken into its atmosphere and its vibes, all setting this perfect gothic atmospheric tone. Leon's wife is kidnapped and the shopkeeper has kind of a weird vibe. So, it's cooking something and I'm in. Then I kept playing and kept playing and kept playing, and eventually I just kinda stopped. Completely dropped the game. I really wanted to fuck with this. I really do genuinely think and believe that Lament is cooking something here, but I think the major problem it ends up running into is a mixture of extreme tedium and extremely flat and uninteresting level and encounter design. I have quite a limited experience with these games as a whole, but my favorite ones, whether I've finished them or not, have tended to excel within their level design and encounter design. To me, a Castlevania game without those are like a bird without wings. While the scenery changes, each level doesn't really have much to it. There's some encouragement of verticality, but it mostly feels extremely simplistic and basic to engage with, majorly just jumping over spikes or traps and whipping across some areas. Every room feels so flat and empty, with nothing that really compelled me to want to really explore each location I visited. It all just felt quite drab and uninteresting. It's a game that feels like it loses steam so fast, and it's such a bummer because, again, the atmosphere is impeccable, the art direction is beautiful, the story seemed kinda interesting, the music slaps. Like, seriously, the score by Michiru Yamane, composer of games such as
Bloodlines.
Symphony of the Night, and Gun Gauge. Provides these atmospheric, funky, intense tracks that really serve the environments that you're trawling around in. Personal favorite of the soundtrack here especially has to be the Anti-Soul Mysteries Lab. That shit feels like a sinister club banger, the type of shit that you'd hear crawling around like a goth club or something. You'd hear this shit in the beginning of Blade in that vampire nightclub scene. Dracula Flow would be going off to this shit.
This shit ain't nothing to me, man.
This game knows how to strike a vibe. It's decidedly not boring in a number of such cool and interesting ways. Like, mechanically, I do think this game got some legs, and I dig how the block MP absorption mechanic works, but it just completely lost me in how tedious it felt to play. Maybe it wasn't fair to drop this one 2 levels into the game. I tend to not be big on dropping games, especially when it comes to videos, but I feel like if your main hook is your gameplay and systems, and those are both just not doing all that much and the level design ain't really doing it, and there's not much there to really hook me, I ain't gotta prove shit to you. I'm gonna drop that shit. Now, I don't think this game is like DMC2 boring, or God forbid Lords of Shadow boring, which I unfortunately did finish years ago, but this was before I adopted this mindset of just like dropping shit that doesn't really do anything for me instead of wasting my time. But just because it's not the complete worst for me doesn't necessarily mean that it then is all of a sudden great to me, and unfortunately this as a whole just really did nothing for me like I wish that it did. It's a bummer, but it is what it is at the end of the day. Maybe I'll try to reapproach this at some point, but for now this is where I'll leave it. Now this? Ooh, let's talk about Curse of Darkness, baby. Curse of Darkness is one of those games that completely blindsided me. See, after Lament, I was so worried about this one, because, like, I was worried that maybe I built these games up in my head or something. Like, maybe there was a reason people didn't really ever say all that much about these games. Booting up Curse of Darkness, man, ooh, man, this game rules. This game owns, dude. I adore Curse of Darkness. This has flat out shot up to being my favorite Castlevania game that I've finished so far. Everything about it drips a kind of playful fun and willingness to let the player fuck around that feels so special to mess around with. The fairly straightforward revenge narrative is colored so beautifully with the cast of fairly deranged characters, and Hector stumbling into more and more weirdos and goofballs on a decently constant basis. I especially love his interactions with Saint Germain. Like, this dude just comes up to him, dripped to the motherfucking gills, and tells him to not get revenge in order to seek to maintain the flow of greater will, whatever the fuck that even means.
For what purpose do you make this request?
This will not make sense to you, but to put it simply, I seek to maintain the flow of a greater will.
This is pointless. Out of my way!
Your beloved was killed on false allegations that she was a witch. I know how you feel, and I sympathize truly, but please look past
Rex,
your own...
how do you know of these things?
That I cannot tell. I know far more than you imagine, but I cannot act upon that knowledge. That is my arrangement. I may only observe. I have no choice but to excuse myself. Please, consider my request. The world hangs in the balance. Goodbye.
I especially love his boss fight cutscene where he just kind of fights you seemingly just because you're there on a very quick whim, or maybe to escape the barrier he's been placed in. Either way, the English VA's delivery here is funny as shit.
Despite that, however, I have fallen into his trap at last.
Trap? What trap?
Well, the space itself is a barrier. Which leads me to question, how did you get here?
On foot. There were no barriers.
Interesting. Most interesting. Yes, that is quite possible.
What are you saying?
Well, in this space, I may be partially freed of the fess of time. Well, that means I can have a direct physical effect here. For example, I could fight you.
So is that your intent? To stop me by force?
Not exactly. By fighting you, all that I need to know will be revealed.
Oh, and Trevor shows up too, just abrasive as shit and super weird about his intentions, which is partially understandable given that Hector worked for Dracula, but I really love the way he delivers the line.
Could he have survived? It cannot be.
Like Hayden Christensen in the Star Wars prequels, and I just think that's really funny.
What have I done?
This whole story has an air of playful seriousness where it's absolutely taking itself seriously, but it just knows how to have fun with itself, and that's really what makes the whole thing click together right perfectly into place. But I do also really adore how the story kind of touches on this idea of tools and the people that use them, that people deserve more and better than being used as mere pawns and tools for the gains of others, how bad people and bad actors will try to take advantage of your intentions, both good and bad, how you can't let your anger completely rule you as a person, how you have to rise above what your hurt and pain is driving you towards, lest you become yet another person perpetuating that pain and despair onto others, using more tools to reach your goals. I really dig that it reinforces this throughout the game and its systems as well, from the weapons and their crafting to the demons you raise. You are constantly burning through and using tools to get closer and closer to your goal and destination. The player, seeing them as the powers that be, see Hector and Isaac in their game to bring back Dracula yet again. Honestly, it all really clicked as I was playing, and I was absolutely in love with what it was going for in that regard. Now the gameplay is where the game seriously shines. A constant bombardment of dopamine hits with constant new weapons, new enemies, new crafting materials, new environments. This whole game is paced out so well. No area goes on for too long. New demons for the ID system are constantly being passed your way to join your crew. It always is making you feel like you're gaining something, plus on top of that, the combat variety, not through the moveset, but through just all the different types of weapons you can use, be it swords, knuckles, axes, spears, or even the goofy-ass joke weapons that rock shit. Like, I feel like the fact joke weapons are even included here is a special kind of thing. Just the devs throwing you a ball and telling you to fucking go wild with it. But I especially love how the weapons play into the ID or Innocent Devil system. So Hector can create and forge new monsters, and the way they level and transform is all dependent on what weapon you kill enemies with. Now for me, I'm gonna just be honest. I didn't make that many demons besides what the game gives you, and I didn't go out of my way to make and level brand new monsters each time. But I do genuinely love that the option is always there if you want it, and you can form your party around your playstyle essentially. So if you want to form your demons around axe points, you can absolutely do that. If you want to stick with the sword, you can do that. It adds to the replayability of this game and how each playthrough can feel different depending on how you go about it, and I just think that's really cool. It feels rewarding to lock into a playstyle for a specific playthrough and change it up for another, or even change it up for a different ID to level up within the same playthrough. Hell, even if grinding can end up becoming more of a thing in the later game, if you're trying to grind out a new demon in order to get them leveled up, it's pretty quick to get them to where you need them to be by the end, honestly, with how much experience mobs can end up giving you to level them up and stuff. Like, end of this game, I had found a little grinding spot to just bang out some levels and level some of the IDs I'd ignored for a bit during my playthrough, and it felt pretty quick to do, or at least far quicker than I expected, to be honest. It's touches like that that make this game so special to me. Like every little bit and piece, every monster ability, every secret room you can stumble upon. Hell, even the goofy chairs that all have different effects and can even have Hector posing differently in them. It's just so much fun. Hell, there's even special finisher animations for some of the weapons, which is really cool. Guts' sword is basically even in here. Like, it's not the literal actual sword from the manga, but like, come on, it's called the Dragon dragon killer and looks like this. Are you gonna try to tell me that's not at least deliberate in some kind of way? Like, come on now. Also, Hector and Isaac kind of have a bit of a Guts Griffith thing going on a little bit, I think, maybe. There's even a fucking Trevor mode once you beat the game that completely changes the entire gameplay and how things feel to control and what you have access to use, just like Julius mode in Aria of Sorrow or Richter mode in Symphony of the Night. Like, fuck yeah, dude. Fuck yeah. In fact, this whole game just kind of feels like a PS2 sort of complement to Aria of Sorrow, which is really cool. I kind of wonder if the teams maybe shared ideas or possibly worked together on fleshing out their entries, maybe, possibly. Like, the games aren't exactly the same or anything, but I do love both games for some similar reasons, even if not all the exact same reasons. There's also crazy mode too once you beat the game. Like, so much is here to chew on and play with. The devs are throwing you into this bitch and want you to have some fun with it. The music too, oh baby. Composed yet again by Michiru Yamane, while also being composed by Yuka Watanabe this go around, who was also a sound engineer on Asura's Wrath and a sound programmer on games such as JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, All-Star Battle, Eyes of Heaven, and Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 3. They got some funky bangers in the soundtrack like Abandoned Castle, Curse of Darkness, with those funky guitars, that drum beat, the synth going, really feels like a fresh classic Castlevania type beat. Shit is hype and really gets you in the mood to get that fucking guy. Balhet Mountains, which starts with a kind of foreboding feeling sting that then picks up into this funky poppy drum beat with a bit more chimey synth type sound as you explore this cold and foreboding mountainside. Feels funky and adventurous in all the right ways. Then you got legendary Belmont. That riff, that clear as fuck rag guitar that just sounds so foreboding here. Like you're fighting a dude that you don't want to fuck with. The drums slamming in the background, the horns. Perfect track for Trevor Belmont. Infinite Corridor got that sinister ass energy. The sinister chime type beat, the drums that pick up, the spooky vocals, all make this place feel real fucked up, creeping up more and more as it goes on. The vocals coming in and out as that creepy ass beat keeps going. This game's music gives it a special kind of atmosphere, playing into both that goofy but creepy ass vibe, bathing the entire game in a kind of perfect special sauce that other games in the series have definitely felt, but still fairly unique to itself within sound. Sick ass soundtrack, sick ass game. But you know, there's something else important about this game. Something that I can't ignore any longer. This game has awakened something carnal, something that I thought left me only occasionally reading a cute yaoi manga here and there. A former, who am I kidding, still ongoing boy-kissing addict, ready to settle on some casual boy-kissing consumption from time to time. Sometimes a little bit of manga here and there, but this game is my yaoi green goblin mask, whispering, taunting, beckoning me to peer deep into the hearts of these two. This game is like relapsing on yaoi. It's insane. I feel like this game has uncovered some carnal want I was suppressing for literally no reason. Like anytime Hector and Isaac are on screen together, it uncovers a deep, deep feeling from within. I want to see art and AMVs of them immediately. Like, I need you to understand, this is a revenge story about a guy who feels betrayed by another guy so badly that he sets up that guy's wife to die, helps him get back into full power to fight him on fair terms, constantly is just barely out of reach, is having some fruity fun with it. Isaac does this shit to Trevor just for getting in the way of him and his boo thing.
Fiend! What are you doing here?
I can't have you interfering beyond this point. I left that seal to Hector.
Impossible! The seal cannot be undone except by a torrent of demonic energy. Hector could not know that.
Do not equate a Devil Forge Master's power with that of an ordinary sorcerer. For a seal like that, the magic produced in battle is more than enough. Placing a guard there proved to be your downfall. Enough talk. Time to die.
You're gay, brother! You're gay! Like, listen, mannerisms don't necessarily make you gay or straight or anything, but look at him! Isaac is serving cunt. A straight person could not serve like this. Isaac is slaying out here. You know, funnily enough, I think back to watching Beau Travail too. Like this queer movie about this gay dude who clearly wants to hate fuck this other dude and constantly has this like tension between both of them the whole time. The more I played Curse of Darkness and saw these two interact, all I could see in my mind was that film. Maybe I'm going insane. This game has watered my yaoi crops. This game has fed my yaoi hunger for a year's time. This game has given me all the toxic yaoi I could need for quite a while. I wish I could watch these two destroy each other carnally, but alas, the tension is what makes it sometimes. Shit, the scene where Hector and Isaac finally really fight is dripping in tension. Like, bruh, you could cut that shit thick with a knife.
You resurrected the castle! Hector, bravo!
You wanted me to regain my powers. Now I see why. I fell right into your plot. After 3 years of peace, I'd lost my edge.
And I've sharpened mine. I've been waiting quite a long time to plot my revenge. Not only did my lord die because of you, you stripped me of my pride, my home. Now I shall make you suffer as I suffered. You shall die a most painful, gruesome death!
Plus, right before he kills his long-lost lover, his old fling, he stops himself. Hector knows his feelings. Oh yeah, your wife wouldn't want you to kill him. Yeah, cause she's a Fujo. She knew what you were, Hector. Yeah, bro, go off to live with Isaac's sister who looks like your wife. Yeah, sure, She probably a damn Fujo too. Hector was totally in the club after, just like this, I swear to God. I feel like if something gets me desperately wanting to create an AMV, then in a kind of way it has to be peak, right? Like this really rocks that type energy, you know? That type vibe. My parents watch these now, man. I'm gonna have to explain to them what fucking yaoi is. Oh. playing Curse of Darkness kinda did another thing to me. While I hadn't forgotten the joy of the smaller scale and smaller budgeted games of the PlayStation 2 era, I do absolutely think that we get cool small scale experiences still coming from like indie teams and some AA studios that are being formed or are around and cooking, but I swear it's so easy to get inundated with what the AAA side is trying to beat into the industry. Curse of Darkness reinforced my burning passion for smaller, tighter experiences made by smaller teams, though to be fair in this case, it's not like Konami at the time was some small-time mom-and-pop publisher, but I think the point about project scale still stands. Maybe I've finally hit that point where the excesses of AAA just don't do it for me anymore. Maybe they can, but a lot of games within the huge budget and huge scope sphere just don't do it for me as much. Things can catch my eyes, but I feel like what I'm looking for at all these shows we continue to get is more Curse of Darknesses and less Horizon Zero Dawns, though I won't lie, Returnal can be nice every now and again. I guess this is all to say that Curse of Darkness reinforced why I do this, why I dig for the games that I do, that even for every Lament of Innocence that doesn't quite hit for me, there's always something special lying somewhere nearby, and I want to share that joy with other people. I hope you yourself can give both of these games a shot, despite what I've said about both of them. They're both fascinating games in their own ways, and don't deserve to be pushed to the sidelines like I think they kinda have been over the years. Now, with Sony actually trying to put PS2 games out there again, with seemingly accurate PS2 emulation, even if very bare bones so far, I think it would be really cool if Konami maybe got an easy win here and put them up there maybe, or made a collection of them for every platform, or ported the DS games, or really did anything meaningful with Castlevania again that wasn't a collection or a remaster, or in the direction of Lords of Shadow. Please God, not in the direction of Lords of Shadow. Maybe one day, now that they kind of seem to be getting it together maybe? Possibly? But only time will tell. So like always, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to all of my patrons. My $5 Radder Magical Person tier patrons are listed on the screen. I also want to give a verbal shout out to my Raddest Magicalist Person tier as well, who are listed on screen and always get a name shout out. Those people are Desiree Corruption, Ginger, Raspe Trash Bear, and Scared Confusion, but thank all of my patrons for your support and believing in the stream of mine. It's seriously appreciated. If you would like to become a patron and get access to work-in-progress video cuts, scripts, and updates about videos, then feel free to check out my Patreon in the description below. So I'm going to keep this one short just because, you know, shorter video. I try to keep that a rule. I try to keep that a rule now. So as for projects coming up, I'm currently doing research for the Xenosaga video. It's a lot. There's a lot of stuff with it. There's a lot of articles, there's a lot of interviews, radio dramas, there's things that I have to look into and verify, etc., etc. So it's like, it's gonna be a minute before the Xenosaga episode 1 video, but it is on the way. It is being worked on actively. The script is like almost done. I just need to like touch up some things. And again, I need to listen to the radio drama, which has kind of been the big thing. 'Cause it's mainly just been time, and then I've wanted to just get something out, and I've wanted to get a couple like small projects lined up. That way it's like y'all aren't just sitting with like nothing, and that way I can like, you know, work on growing the channel. Because like I said, I want these to kind of be when I finish them, but I also do want to get better at becoming more frequent again. And so if I can get something out like every 1 or 2 months, just like something small like this, that's like ideal. That way it gives me time to kind of work on that in the background, and then once I release something big, then from there, you know, we can keep things moving along. Only other thing I really want to talk about this time is the podcast, Questlog Club. So like I said in the beginning, started that with friends of the channel, Robin McCall and Daedra. So that is what I will also be working on in the background. That one, we committed to making that kind of a low commitment kind of thing. We are putting time and energy into it, but not like, it's not something that is going to draw away from anything we are doing creatively on our own. but it's something that we thought would be fun. And like I've legitimately had people be like, wow, I wish that like you put out stuff more frequently, or put out like things that like maybe I could listen to or whatever, like podcast. And I was like, and I was talking about it with Robin, and we kind of all came up with the idea, and we were like, oh, a game club thing could be fun. So by the time this is up, the newest episode should be out on BioShock 2. I kind of want to keep also like try to make that like if there is a video that, or if there's like a game, because like I'm probably not going to talk a lot about Western games on this channel. That is probably where you will hear more of my Western game centered opinions, if I'm being honest. Outside of like little quips or little small things, because I want to keep this channel pretty focused. And so if you want to know how I feel about BioShock 2, or maybe just games that I might not cover on the channel, but I might, like the next episode, I'm not going to spoil what it is, but is a game that I might cover here, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, yeah, that's all I got. Like always, want to thank everybody for, you know, supporting what I do. We're like, you know, I've been seeing subs grow steadily. I always like read every comment I get, and I really appreciate all of them. And I always like engage to, you know, the best of my ability with ones that I feel like I can. So thank you all for the support as always. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for, you know, giving the things that I make a chance. Make sure that you know, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't. And if you're subscribing for the first time, well then welcome to the Coven.